Well, good evening, everybody, and all the loyal listeners of the I Still Call It a Lariat podcasting network. This is another exciting, chaotic, action-packed episode of Down the Wrestling Rabbit Hole. I am one half of the conductor of this train wreck of a podcast that we have. I am Howard Meat Sweats Morgan, and if you want to know why they're calling me Meat Sweats, go back to episode 6 of Down the Wrestling Rabbit Hole, and it will put everything into perspective. Joining me as always is the other half of the train conductor of this train wreck is Mozart the Chick Magnet Fontaine. Mozart, how you doing, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing good. What's the official title of a co-conductor? I can't be the co-pilot because we're not in a plane, but
who cares? We call it whatever we want.
Co-pilot of this train. Yeah, exactly.
We'll be they have multiple heavyweight champions, so we'll be co-conductors,
Well, I guess that makes me the world heavyweight conductor, and you the Lariat. I still call it a Lariat heavyweight champion conductor.
Yeah,
we're gonna go that way.
But it's been a bit of a weird week.
Listeners, are you as confused about the championship scene as Howard and I are? That's all I want to know.
It's crazy. But an interesting thing happened last night, Mozart. Game 3 of the World Series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays went 6 hours and 39 minutes, 18 innings, 2 full baseball games. So
shoot,
they're some of the long. It was tied for the longest World Series game. So in 2024, and all of these were played by the Dodgers. Game 1 in 2024 went 10 innings. Game 2 of the World Series in 2017 went 11 innings. And then Game 3 in 2018 went 18 innings. And then last night, of course, Game 3 in 2025 goes 18 innings. Not only did they all involve the LA Dodgers playing, they had one other connecting commonality. Do you know what that commonality is?
No, I'm interested. What was it?
Brad Paisley sung the national anthem at all 4 of those games.
So are you saying that Brad Paisley wrote the script? No, I'm just kidding.
He's responsible for extra innings.
World Series. Brad is a shredding, blistering guitar player. He's really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he really is.
But yeah, Brad Paisley apparently is the king of extra innings when it comes to the LA Dodgers, and more specifically when it comes to the World Series.
That's really cool. That's an interesting piece of I guess history or just trivia.
Yeah. But I want to kind of
trivia. I'm not, me, I'm not as adversed in mainstream sports, but anytime there's like some really like interesting piece of trivia, it's kind of like, wow, like look at that,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I want to exercise your brain here to get ready to go down this rabbit hole.
Okay, what do you got?
I'm going to give you 5 wrestlers' names. I got this off of TikTok.
Okay,
and I want you to rate them 1 through 5. Okay. As I give them to you. You just tell me where you think they would fall.
Is there no wrong answer here?
No. There's no wrong answer.
Okay. Because it could change tomorrow or even by the end of the show, but let's do it.
It could, but I think it'll be interesting because you don't know who I'm going to say. Now you have to rank these, one being number 1 through 5. All right. So I'll start off with George South.
Okay.
Where do you place George South, 1 through 5?
Oh, and I don't know who the other people are.
You have no idea. No, not till I tell you.
Okay.
You have to blindly rate them.
I'm just going to go with 5.
Okay. Johnny Rods.
Johnny, I would say 2.
SD Jones.
SD 4.
Iron Mike Sharp.
Iron Mike Sharp. Let's do Iron Mike Sharp. I might want to change my order now, but 3. And now 3. I'm kind of locked into number 1, but.
Well, that's good because number 1 is the Brooklyn Brawler.
The Brooklyn Brawler? Okay. So we're talking about guys who were enhancing guys and local guys. I don't know that you can. I mean, they were all so good at what they did.
They were very good. That's why and I hate I guess the working term or common term would be jobbers, and I hate that terminology.
Bobby Heenan liked to call them ham and eggers, but
ham and eggers. And I love ham and eggers. Enhancement talent kind of is one. That I prefer. Journeyman, is another good one. But I heard it. I don't know, probably going on 2 years ago now. Arn Anderson was telling the story. They were at a bar, and Jamie Noble was there, and these guys were really cracking on Jamie Noble for, being a jobber. That's what they kept calling him.
Mm-hmm.
And Arn, in his Arn way, literally walked up to the guys at the bar and kind of set them straight. Says, "Listen, nobody that's a top tier talent can do what they do without guys like Jamie Noble, the Brooklyn Brawler, Johnny Rods.
No doubt.
Those guys are very integral to the success of every. Let me look at just the guys that we just named on this list. Look at all the guys that they wrestled and put over in in the years and years of their wrestling and their lineage.
I would probably, in retrospect, even only switch my numbers. I would put Johnny at 1 because, from a technical standpoint, Johnny was probably a frog hair away from being a star.
Oh yeah, and he was one of Vince's right hand men that
And then same way with Brawler, he was right there too, with just being a real good mid carder. He wasn't. He actually did get to mid card for a while in a pretty important era. So
I think he wrestled for WWF, WWE for like 35 years. Like
yeah, that's unheard of.
Nobody spent that much time anywhere. Especially in a wrestling company, especially in an era where Brooklyn Brawler was coming up, when territory system was still very much in effect, and probably could have gone anywhere, and maybe not have been as successful or been more successful. Who knows? But the guy stayed true to WWF and is really, a legend, among the giants of pro wrestling. And there's one other thing I want to hit on real quick, since it is kind of current events, is, we heard that Mike Rotunda is now in hospice care. It doesn't look
sad,
good,
man.
For him, the guy that's been in and around the business, himself, 44 years, debuted in 1981, plus his family, Blackjack Mulligan, everyone would go back. I mean, that wrestling heritage,
a legacy,
60, 70 years, if I had to guess. And it's just, sad to see, listen, these guys that I grew up watching, the guys that, that I idolized, on TV, good, bad, or indifferent, they were very much part of, my wrestling growth, and my love for the business.
Yeah.
Back when wrestling was real, a lot more real than it is today.
Yeah.
I share with you guys, I didn't watch Raw, but more than maybe a half an hour, 35.
Why not?
Because I got the visceral feeling right in my gut. And,
was there too much roast beef?
No.
He got me with a mouthful of iced tea. Oh my God.
It came out his nose, Steve. It was great.
Hey, the entire freaking show was a crock, Steve. I'm just going to say that.
and what did it for me was one moment in a match that almost seemed insignificant was the Rusev Penta match. When Rusev was down.
I love Penta too. Like I just don't want him anywhere near Rusev, to be honest with you. He's too good.
Not that the match was okay at best, but Rusev is sitting on the mat in the corner.
And think about that. Penta is in a match that's okay at best.
That's okay.
Penta doesn't do okay at best matches. And that's a problem.
He goes into the corner and does his handstand. And as he does, Rusev sticks his right arm up, I believe, to steady him. Well, this guy's about to kill you with a move. Why are you helping him? Why wouldn't you want him to fall over and not do what he's about to do? If this is a fight.
Goes back to me talking about tradecraft. Like, if you go back and watch Eddie Guerrero wrestle Ric Flair, it's a stark contrast of styles, but it worked. And they put on a really good TV match. Number one, because of who they both are, but that's exactly why they're both who they are, because they don't do stupid shit like that. Flair wasn't used to guys necessarily walking the rope and doing all those things, but the way that they were steadied was based on reality. It wasn't based on, oh shit, you're going to fall.
I'll go even a little newer than that. This way we can, because Eddie and Flair, their style feels a little bit, I would say, similar to Flair and Steamboat. Like, I feel like they could have put on that same type of match.
I without a doubt. I couldn't agree with that more.
You know, so I'll say two guys that are very, very far from each other that up until they worked with each other had probably never worked with people like that realistically. And that was that early 2000s, mid 2000 and like up to like 05, 07, Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio.
Oh my God, that blew my mind. But see, Kurt, as we often say, there's a lot to be said about how good Kurt was, but here's how good Kurt was. Amateur wrestlers always, at least at his level. I mean, there's a ton of guys. We talked about Rick Martel. You can talk about most guys. Ric Flair had a little bit of amateur background, but when you wrestled at Kurt's level to be able to go pro, I don't think anyone, even Brock, got it as much as Kurt got it. Kurt wanted to entertain. He didn't care if he put on a cowboy hat. He didn't care what to do. He just knew how to entertain. And that's what made Kurt way better than most. But anyway, Steve, go ahead to your point.
But like, I think that's another one of those situations of two guys whose style is so far away from each other. Yeah. But they managed to do it in a way that I bought it. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Ray has to do this flashy move to confuse him. But again, like, and it was even like some of the stuff that I might not, most guys I wouldn't have been okay with doing it. Ray doing it was a little bit different. He gets that grace. Like, there's certain points where like he takes a turnbuckle bump on the chest, and when he comes back, Angle goes to like belly to back suplex him, not German, like an actual belly to back, and Ray automatically flips over. I'm like, all right, that's supposed to make sense. That makes sense to me because he's supposed to be this underdog that can take the beating and then still come around and like he'll spin out of this, you know. But he wasn't not selling it. He didn't not register the move, you know. Like that's the thing is, so much of this new stuff that people are doing, it's not just not selling. They're not even effing registering it.
Well, you have to, what's the old saying? You have to go to the register before you can make the sale. If you don't register it, you can't walk away and sell it. You have to register it first. The natural progression is, and I don't know if you saw it. Did you see the thing that Howard sent the other day with the Three Stooges where Mo was talking about, he literally used the term, it's how Larry takes it. It's how he takes it. Well, the taking it is the register. And then you've got to walk away and let everybody know it hurt you. And that was kind of something that I don't think people know when, you know, as far as the curtain's been pulled back, that little nuance has been left aside. So now, and the only reason I bring it up, because that's a little bit of an inside tradecraft thing. But the reason I bring it up, because I hope listeners will now say, because we have to stop accepting mediocrity on TV from seven-figure people. Let me just say that first of all, or even six-figure people. There is no excuse. I don't want to hear about how much they travel, because look at Harley and look at Flair. They don't travel more than
they travel a third of what the guy.
Everyone nowadays travels a third of what they used to. How many of those guys worked 6 days a week, 7 days a week, and they were in different towns every night, and they drove there?
And it's provable. Not only that, just them telling war stories. If you go back and look at, I mean, there's nobody in the wrestling business that knows anything. I'm still very much tied to people from that era. That's what they did. It was a 7-day-a-week job. It just was.
You know, that old expression, you know, it's 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. Well, that's really, it was 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. Oh, and twice on Saturday. Yeah, so you're literally working 9 times in a week, and if you don't,
Steamboat talked about that. He said that they did so many matches, Howard, that he felt were better than anything that Flair and him put on TV, and that's pretty astounding. Yeah, that you just never see because it wasn't on film.
Yeah, it was just some town. It was a spot show or whatever it was. They,
town of a couple of thousand people, whatever it was, maybe even a couple of hundred. Got that quality of match, but now you want $8,000 a front ticket and everything is bullshit. I mean, bullshit, like completely and utterly like bullshit.
Well,
like,
and
that's bad.
Mozart, it's one of those things that, like, getting back to the registering, it's one of those things that it's part of the reason why I hate that bullshit that they do. And I get it. it's the Japanese, it's the Bushido, it's the fighting spirit. It's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's the trading the weak, short forearms to each other with no register whatsoever. Listen, don't get me wrong. I remember seeing, and doing it myself in matches. Oh, the heel's coming in and he's got the big axe handle about to come down and you nail him with a punch. And then you fight your way back up. But the heel hasn't.
But you're fighting back from the bottom.
But you're fighting from the bottom. And then the heel, though, who's been healthy for most of this match, is obviously not going to, after you've gotten the hell knocked out of you, isn't going to just lay down and die after 2 or 3 punches. So he punches you back. But you sell it, you register it. Even if it's not a sell, it's got to at least be a register. It's got to be if I full on hit you with a right hook, you need to turn your head. And honestly, that little turn of the head is a good enough reason to come back and look like you've got a better punch because you're coming from way over here now.
Right.
Let me put the exclamation point on that. I'll put the exclamation point on that. Let's leave names out of it except for this guy, Road Warrior Hulk. Even Road Warrior Hulk, when he took a punch to the face, would go,
yeah,
and then just look at you like, holy,
yeah.
Even the chops. Remember Flair? When you're 40 pounds soaking wet and you're blasting each other and just like sucking it up, it's not realistic. Road Warrior Hulk, muscle from head to toe, could register. It was properly called a no-sell, but he registered it. He got hit. He'd look at the mark on his chest, and then he'd no-sell it because he's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Tenryu and Hashimoto were thick. So when you look at everybody too thinks they know Japanese stuff. And I've never wrestled there. I've studied it heavily, and I've got a lot of friends that have been there who've told me firsthand what it's really like. And I mean a lot of friends. So I got some good, real feedback about why they do things, the psychology of things. I've studied it myself, so I understand it. It's phony when you've got 200-pound indie guys just trading off forearm shots to the face and, like you said, not registering it. It's not even cool. Like, it just makes me want to go get a hot dog. Like, I need to see you take that, suck it up, and come back because you're a storyteller, man. Because, again,
that gives me more of the fight.
Yeah.
I want the fight.
It invests the people, it's not. One thing will have, here's a really bad trend in wrestling for generations. One thing will happen for a specific reason, a la, I think it was Taker and Shawn Michaels kicking out of each other's finishes, because it was WrestleMania. It was telling a story. They couldn't put each other away. And now we're at the point where 15 Canadian destroyers and 47 dives off a top rope, a flamethrower. Like I told Howard, you're going to need the C-130 Spectre gunship to come kill everybody in the arena legitimately before anybody believes anything's real. That's where we're at. So, guys, seriously, I plead with you, wrestlers, workers, fans, don't accept it. You've got to pull back and start telling the story, or we're all done.
Also, Mozart, look at the 2 names you just said, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. And what's great? That first match that they did at Mania, where they did do that stuff, if you look at the guy, so that Mania in general is kind of mediocre. I believe that's 25. I don't
remember it.
Exactly.
I know is because I heard him talk about it himself. I heard Taker talk about that.
Yeah. So
now they just do it all the time.
So in general, that Mania was fairly mediocre, but there is one standout on the card under that Taker and Michaels match that I recall greatly, because again, he's one of our favorites. It was when they did the Legends versus Chris Jericho, and all the Legends went down quick except for one guy, and that was old man Ricky Steamboat. And Ricky Steamboat at like 55 looked better than like 95% of the wrestlers on the planet that were young and healthy. And I know what happened. I know what that was. That was Steamboat still proving he could do it, and Jericho wanting to have a Ricky Steamboat match with Ricky Steamboat. Oh, yeah. Exactly. And then them going back there. I wouldn't be surprised if that was them going back there and be like, okay, boys, now do better. I'm 55 years old. Jericho was still not the youngest dude in the locker room at that point by any means.
Tenured at that point, yeah.
You know, he's got to be at least 40 at that point, almost 40 at that point. Go, all right, boys, now go out there and beat that. And you want to know who did? Taker and Michaels.
Yep.
That was it. They were the only ones that were able to do it, and they had to do it with that stuff. They had to go 10 minutes longer to be better than that. But like, that's the thing is, I agree with you. I think we've gone so far into one direction that we almost have to reset. We almost have to you know, like I have a good friend in the wrestling business, Rhett Titus. I got to tag with him while I was still wrestling. It was right towards the end of my career. And I looked at Red at one point. He was still working for Ring of Honor. This was before Tony had bought it and all that.
Yeah.
Ring of Honor was still running on the regular. And I looked at him, and he was one of the Ring of Honor. He was either the tag team champion or the television champion. It was one or the other. And I looked at him. I go, so what are you doing? What are you doing as a finish so that we can try to set something up for the end of this match? He goes, I'm using a drop kick.
Cool.
And I went, nice.
Yeah.
And he hit just the most beautiful drop kick in the world. And I've
seen some highlight reels of some of his work. Yeah, he's impressive.
He's one of those guys that should have made it somewhere else. And I think
you make a great point there too. Let's not to rabbit hole it right now, but look at just because you're not currently on TV with some huge contract doesn't mean you're not good. And on the flip side of that, listen to this one real closely, audience. Just because you're there making that money does not mean you're good. Timing, politics, what you were doing, what you were willing to give up. I don't know Rhett's story, but maybe Rhett had a mortgage and didn't want to gamble it all away. You know, and it is a gamble when you go to the big time because there's no guarantee, no matter how good you are. Again, just because you're there doesn't mean you're good.
Right.
Just means you're right place, right time with the right look.
Right. So you mean to tell me WrestleMania 25, you're putting Chris Jericho's Legends, that handicap match, up against, you know, The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, but yet you conveniently, and I had to look it up because I thought that's when it happened, but I can't remember. You're conveniently leaving out the infamous Santina Marella winning the ladies' battle royal.
Yes, I am absolutely conveniently leaving that up.
Yeah. Because in today's world, Howard, he would have been what do they call it, canceled or whatever the word is. He would have been shunned. He would have been probably had death threats, you know, because you don't do that, you know. So you can have all the ladies beat the guys.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. There were some matches that should have stood up to this.
You know what, we talk about unifying titles and having too many titles. Steve, did you see what the dark match was?
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, the WWE and the World Tag Team Championships. That was when they unified. That was when the Cologne started holding both the tag team titles, and then they turned them into. That was when they turned them into those penny titles.
Yes, they wanted to unify the WWE and World Tag Team Championships. They wanted to condense down titles instead of having too many.
You know what's funny is, and I heard someone else say it. I believe it was Bully Ray said it on Busted Open, and I agree with him with this, except for the fact that there's too many titles in wrestling.
Yeah.
If we could eliminate something or downsize some of the titles, for at least for WWE specifically, I would love a real television title. I would love a title that got defended every single show, and I mean every WWE product at this point. Like, if you want to say Evolve because it's the developmental to the developmental isn't really their product, I understand that. Okay, I'll get that. But I want to see them defended on Monday on Raw. I want to see them defended Tuesday on NXT. I want to see them defended Friday on SmackDown. I want to see them defended on the pay-per-view that week. I want to see them defended on Saturday night's main event. I don't care. Cool. And it's a title and I think it should be a title that you can hot potato. I don't need a guy to hold it for 4 months. I need a guy to hold it for 3 to 4 weeks tops.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if you I did understand for a long time too the need to not have a TV title, because now every title is defended on TV like at willy-nilly. But what they've done with that US Open Challenge is really cool. And I told you, I love that Dragunov Sammy match. I think, okay, that's a match that people should start being like, all right, it was realistic, it was hard hitting, it was innovative. I didn't necessarily expect him to win. Very cool. So maybe you take the other title, which is what Dirty Dom, maybe you take the IC title and you make it that on the other show. So in essence, you get what you're saying. So maybe you don't need to create a new title, but I like the concept of the TV title. It just became a moot point when every week the heavyweight champion was on, and then they did something. But you and I have talked about that before, because I'm a huge TV title fan too, and I just think, unfortunately, it got to the point where we don't really need one. But if they were going to do it, that's the concept that I love too.
Right.
That would be cool.
Well, and that TV title was it's always been specifically associated with Arn.
Arn, yeah.
Oh man, I mean, come on. He was the
I
quintessential guy.
Of all the things that Jim Crockett Promotions did, I think the one thing that they did absolutely correct was you never saw. I shouldn't say never, because people find a YouTube video once or twice that it happened. You would rarely ever
roast you on it too, Howard, once they find it.
and then I'll get all choked up because I was wrong.
Exactly.
But you rarely saw Ric Flair defend his heavyweight title on TV.
Yeah,
you rarely
it was a
saw
special.
The U.S. heavyweight title defended on TV. Crockett was going to make you pay to go see those to be defended, whether it's a pay-per-view.
It was a business model too, though. It wasn't just Crockett. That was kind of a business model, if you remember, throughout that era. Even WWF did that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the tag team titles were rare. Maybe more often the tag titles were, but rarely was there a major title change first seen on TV or even changed on television for free. You were going to pay for it, and you had to pay to see it happen. And
no,
Steve,
Howard,
before we
you're
go
100% right.
hole, is that your Mr. Hole in One hat you have on up there? The Hole in One Barry?
No. This is it's I actually made friends with the coach for University of Texas at El Paso for the golf coach. He was sitting at my bar. In my real life, I'm a bartender. And we kind of he follows the show. He follows all the stuff that we do. So I always
really
like to throw the hat on sometimes to record. So
I love when you can make these connections. Like you just get out into a social setting, and people at wrestling and like pop culture is just so tied in. And that's what kind of makes me sad, is I feel like that it's kind of being hoard out, prostituted now. Like, hey, I've got this, not us. And I don't think from the independent standpoint as much. I think guys are by and large trying to do the right thing, but we're also fighting what the national product is, which is always kind of driven the direction of where independents kind of go. Now, a lot of them will also take the model and go the other direction. So now, ECWA has always done this, I can tell you, but they're definitely doing it now. Now they're taking it back to a family product. Now it's character oriented. Now there's a wrestling match on the show. Now there's maybe a gimmick match. Maybe, cheap plug. We got Night of Unusual Matches coming up in a week and a half, November 8th, but there'll be a bunch of specialty matches. Now, what's interesting, Steve, is I don't know if you've seen the card Howard has. These specialty matches, really, really super cool.
Does it involve roast beef?
No, but they're good. It will. Howard doesn't know, but there's going to be. Leo Sparrow no longer throws out spinach. It's going to be roast beef, Howard. He's going to go over to see Fitz at the concession stand, and she's going to have a nice crock pot of roast beef ready for Howard. But don't choke on it, Howard, because it'll
be cut up real nice and small for you, buddy.
Yeah, it'll be like baby bites, Howard. You'll be okay. Yeah, and then you'll have Slim next to you to keep you company anyway. So there you go. You see his face? but you know
if the roast beef doesn't kill him, Slim might.
Yeah. We've
Roast beef, please take me now. Please take me now.
That's part of the. Hey, it's Night of Unusual Matches. You know,
it's all of Howard's kryptonite.
Exactly. But you know, you might go from like one of the matches, for example, just a unification match with two different style guys that are both really good. You get a guy like Say Morgan who's going to wrestle more like Kurt Angle. He's a little bit hard hitting. You know, he's got some technical moves, and then you've got your Rey Mysterio and Leo Sparrow who can fly all over the place. Now they can both do a little bit of it's a loose comparison. So you got that kind of match.
No, I don't think it's
loose.
I mean, it's pretty close. I mean,
yeah,
Leo's built very slim, very trim, kind of like Rey Mysterio, and Shane Morgan is very thick and and
technically ground based. But you know that's
been wrestling since he was 13, so.
Yeah, 13. I loved it. Remember, I kept making him say it because it sounded so cool, and I was like, "What was it again? Say when did you start wrestling again?" Oh, he's great. But he when the independent groups, the smart guys, the smart ones who are just building their crowd. Now, I disagree with fans, and this is where like Slim and I'll have the knock him down, drag him outs. He's the 2%. Most people don't want to see. And I'll tell you exactly why, because what they think they're watching, which is that Ring of Honor Super 8 style, pales in comparison to what is really that style and the guys that can perform like that. So you get a lot of missed spots and miscues and silliness, even just outright illogical stuff compared to watching Christopher Daniels or Low Key or American Dragon or AJ Styles or Rhett or, Moff or Mac or, any of the guys who could put together a logical match that's going to make you believe that what you're watching is what's actually happening, right? So there's that. And there are some really talented guys out there that can still do that. Those are the guys that's who promoters should be hiring and looking to get in. But the bigger problem, guys, is we talked about this a little bit in our pre-show meeting. Yes, we have those fans.
We had a production meeting.
We have production meetings. They just no one ever actually pays attention to it, and then we decide to do whatever the hell we want.
It's always Steve. What can I say on the show, and what can I? No, I'm just kidding.
Literally, the title of this week's episode is "We might get canceled this week," or "We might get kicked off." I'm sorry.
We might get kicked off. Yeah. Did you know?
Luckily, I'm the boss, so the only one who can kick us off is me.
Is you, right?
So I'm going to fire myself.
Listen, the only thing that went in business for itself this week was my TV. So once we got that straightened out, But
so Mozart, you tolerated more of Raw than I, because I got about 35 minutes in Raw, and I'm like, I'm done.
Oh, I watched the whole thing, and it was I watched it out of curiosity because.
Like,
I think it was done
get any worse?
Well, here's what I'll say. I rarely critique stuff because I still have friends in wrestling. I have a few who I considered pretty decent friends that work there, so I don't want to offend anybody or knock anybody because it's not their fault. They didn't make the call, And by and large, those guys are the ones that are really killing it. They have the better matches. Two of my friends are referees, Sean Bennett and Danilo. I watch them, and I'm always in awe about how well they can move and the calls that they make. And I see other referees looking like they shouldn't even be in a ring there. So again, just because you're there doesn't necessarily mean that you are some type of ultra talent. Those guys are. Same way with some of the wrestlers. But what I saw was a show that was written completely backwards, and they should have been embarrassed. As you pointed out.
What I wanted to hit on was I listened to Sirius Radio, and a podcast there.
When are we going to be on Sirius Radio, Steve? That's what we need. Really get us.
Every caller
that's confidential information, and they won't take. They haven't returned my phone calls.
Right.
Keep trying, my man.
Everybody that called into this particular show raved about how great the ladies' tag team match was.
Are you fucking serious? Were they workers or were they fans?
They were fans.
I think they're just fans. They're all fans.
All right. Let me explain why it was not. I can go deep into that. But here's what I'll say about the whole show. It was written ass backwards. They opened with the fucking money. they open with the two guys wrestling for the heavyweight title, who, by the way, didn't break down into a fight, nor should it have, because that's way too predictable. So that
Right.
no problem with that segment. It's just where they put it. Why did you need to open with a bunch of chit-chatty talking for 20 minutes? And like I told Howard, because it's a corporation, and because we've always done it that way.
That's the funny thing is, it never breaks down into a fight anymore. Like, I understand Jey Uso and CM Punk not breaking down into a brawl, because realistically, they don't, outside of wanting to be the world champion, they don't have a real personal issue with each other.
And now you really want to see them get it together. They've not touched each other yet.
Yeah. So now then,
that's a good.
My issue is when you have two guys who have a deep-seated personal hatred with each other. And by the way, guys, any of the listeners, anybody in the Legion who's paying attention to us, Cody is a prime example of this. Cody Rhodes, the world heavyweight champion, is a prime goddamn example of this, where he will go out there and tell you how mad he is about something. And the other guy will come out who he is mad at. And instead of punching him in the mouth like he should, they will just talk. What the actual hell?
The logic, that's the thing is writers, whoever the hell they are, producers, wrestlers, anybody who lets it go is at fault. And I don't know exactly who it is. I have no clue. I'm not.
Hey guys, I know you lit a burning cross in my front yard, but I'm going to tell you how mad I am, but I'm not going to do anything about it until the match. Now it's different. Like, if you want to tell the story, you guys aren't allowed to touch each other. If either one of you touches each other, blah, 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 blah happens. A fine, whatever happens, you're not going to have the match and you're stripped of the title. Something serious that goes along with that. I feel like the fines are no longer a thing, because in too many sports, I've heard about, like, I hear about football players who set aside fine money every year.
Yeah.
You know, like defensive players, they set aside fine money because, hey, I'm gonna hit somebody as hard as I can. I don't care. Sure. I'm gonna hit them. And I remember, like, someone, I think it might have been Teddy Bruschi said it. He was like, I used to set aside fine money because I knew I was gonna hit somebody so hard that I was gonna get fined.
That's pretty funny.
And he goes, and the coach had no problem with it. The problem is the time that I got suspended, and now I'm hurting the team because I'm not on the field. So to go back to that though, my point is, if football players and baseball players and basketball players are not worried about fines, pro wrestlers who are supposed to be beating each other up anyway should not be worried about fines. You know, why are we worried about a $10,000 fine when Kevin Owens is driving around in a Lamborghini, or a $20,000 fine when Cody has a tour bus? You know, like, let's be realistic.
Not a big deal.
Now then, if they came out there and they're like, you're not allowed to touch each other, and if you instigate it, we're stripping you of the title automatically.
That's what I was going to say. Put a real stipulation on it.
Yeah, or like, if you touch him, this stipulation is on the match so that you are at a disadvantage. Like, put a real stipulation on it. But just standing out there, like, that's like if I looked at you, Mozart, and I was like, you know, you're a real piece of garbage, and like, slash your tires, and you didn't punch me afterwards.
Yeah, it's the logic is going out the window. And this is not, I've had some really good conversation with some mentors of mine recently, guys that are extremely knowledgeable in pro wrestling, who've done it all. Use your imagination, guys. You guys probably know, but for the fans, I'd rather not. Listeners, guys that have done it all. Logic is gone. It's not even something they think about, and I don't know why, and neither do the folks that I've spoken with. It's huge. It's a real bad problem, and that's what made that women's tag match one of the worst matches I've ever seen in my life. On top of the fact that you've got probably 6 or 7 figure workers in that ring, who looked like they could not give a shit.
That's a big
to the ropes, bounced off the ropes, blew spots, and yes, they did. I would be more than happy to put on to show you every single one they blew. and I stopped counting at about 10. They were bad. The worst part of it was an obvious telegraph of Charlotte going to whip maybe Lyra into her own corner, not Charlotte's corner, not whipping her to her partner so they can do damage, or whipping her to her partner so she theoretically could tag, to watch Bailey run away from the corner to not tag, to see the reversal, which was telegraphed anyway, because you would never shoot your own opponent ever. I'm a tag specialist, guys. You guys know I love tag wrestling. I've done it for years. You would never shoot them into the corner for any reason. You work the neutral corners. That's from a worker. That was bad. That was that. I really at that point was like, I don't even want to watch any of these ladies ever again. They're fucking horrible. And I don't want to hear about accidents. I've been in the ring. I know what it's like to be discombobulated. That was a pure, I look at her corner and because that's where the spot was supposed to happen. That's all that was. I don't give a fuck. That's not wrestling. That's never been wrestling.
You know, it's funny.
Never be part of wrestling.
Mozart, we could make the argument that in the current landscape of pro wrestling, I'm not saying the crowd or whatever we're doing, they're drawing more money than ever before in wrestling. Well, if nothing else, through inflation.
Let's throw the nuance. They are not drawing more money.
They're making more money.
Different revenue streams to Band-Aid, which is making more money.
Exactly. So they're making more money than ever before. And I think we're all kind of in agreement too, because I wanted to bring this up. I remember I texted you guys that I was watching this the other night. The Jim Herd era of WCW.
That's Howard's favorite.
Is quite possibly hands down the worst era of one of the worst eras of wrestling.
It's got to be one of them. No doubt.
It might be in the top 3. You know, it's
got to be, yeah. And what makes it worse is it came off right off of one of the hottest.
One of the hottest, yeah. So there's Clash of the Champions at the end of 1991. I love this event. It's one of my first WCW NWA events that I got into because I didn't get TBS as a kid. It wasn't until I was about 9 years old that I started watching TBS because I was living with my aunt at the time who had real cable. Lucky bastards.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go through this card. First of all, Clash of the Champions. I remember it was one of the few times they used to do it on Thursdays. I remember that. Clash of the Champions used to be on Thursdays because WCW Saturday Night was on Saturdays, obviously, and that was their main show at the time. It was a 2-hour show at most. 9 matches. Just to give you an idea, because 9 matches is like a small AEW card. 9 matches in 2 hours. The longest match on the card went under 15 minutes. And I'm going to go through the card, and you tell me one of these matches that realistically, if I tell you, you're not really going to watch. Like there's one or two that you say, I could do without it. But all right, so Big Josh, who was Matt Bourne.
Matt Bourne, yes.
Matt Bourne as a babyface against Tommy Rich in a lumberjack match. It's not a bad match.
No, I would probably watch that one.
And Howard, 6 minutes long. I could stand that for 6 minutes.
I can watch, even now, Tommy Rich, as old as he is, I could watch him for 6 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. Match number 2 at 4 minutes and 52 seconds, not even a full 5 minutes. Beautiful Bobby Eaton versus part of the WCW Special Forces Firebreaker Chip. Ugh. Which, if you remember those guys, they were 2 like meathead guys. I think they were 2 Rick Bassman guys.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, but Bobby could carry anybody.
Bobby did. Bobby absolutely carried that match. For 5 minutes, I can watch Bobby Eaton carry somebody. This is the one that surprises me. Less than 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Tom Zank and the Diamond Stud, otherwise known as Scott Hall.
Scott Hall.
And Zank wins it.
This card.
All right.
This was a clash. Did you say this was a Clash of
Clash.
Champions?
This is on Peacock right now. You can go watch this on Peacock.
I know I saw this card. Yeah, I remember
I watched this card
Yeah.
live. This is. I'll eventually get to why this is one of my favorites because it was the start of me watching WCW.
Yeah.
Stunning Steve Austin as the world television champion defending against PN News.
Yeah, Steve Austin was so underrated as the world television champion. He
I agree.
Carried the mantle after Arn in a way.
Now that went 4 minutes 21 seconds. So Mozart, what I'm saying is this card before while you went off for a second, this card was 2 hours long, 9 matches.
Yeah.
The longest match on the whole card was still under 15 minutes.
That's typically how you do a show. Though.
That's a real show. That's how a real show used to go.
Still works today.
Okay. This was setting up a further feud. Cactus Jack versus Van Hammer. 4 minutes, 3 seconds.
Okay.
Hammer when he was still super green.
Yeah.
Again, this is 91. Don't forget. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this was my favorite match on the whole card. And once I say it, you're going to understand why.
Yeah.
The Enforcers are the tag team champions and they're defending. So Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko. Already, I'll watch this match most likely.
I mean, unbelievable.
Those two guys as a heel tag team.
Yeah.
And
think about the guys that Arn tagged with over the years. Not one of them was a bad tag team.
No, and if you remember, there was a while where Arn was tagging with Bobby Eaton after the right after this with
Arn and Tully. There was Arn and Larry. I mean, it went on. There was Arn and Ole. There was Arn and Rick. I mean, it was just down the list.
That's what I'm saying. So Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko defended the tag team titles. It was originally supposed to be against Dustin Rhodes, the Natural, and his mentor tag team partner Barry Windham. Barry was I think this was a shoot. I think Barry was shoot injured at the time. He had a hand. They did the gimmick where they hurt his hand. They slammed his hand in the car door, and then they kept hurting it. Yeah. So they got a mystery tag team partner, and Dustin and his mystery tag team partner won the tag team titles, and the tag team partner was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
I knew it.
Yep.
I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah.
So Dustin and Ricky Steamboat against Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko for just under 15 minutes. Yeah, I'll watch that.
Yeah. But I think, too, the length of time of a match, Steve, and you know this because you trained old school with Larry's philosophy at the Mantra Factory, you don't need 25. And as a matter of fact, I would be as bold to say as a lot of guys who think they can go a 25-minute match today have no clue how to do a 25-minute match.
No, and I don't think you, especially on the indies and stuff like that, I don't think you need it unless there's some type of gimmick involved in it. If you tell me that the main event of a big indie show is going to be a 30-minute Iron Man match, okay, I can buy it. And but be able to do it also. By the way, the follow-up for that tag team match was Brian Pillman defending the light heavyweight title against Johnny B. Bad.
Wow. Yeah, because Johnny had that great look. Mark was really, really athletic, and he could have some really good matches with the guys who were a little more skilled in the ring, like Brian.
They still went. They still went just over 4 minutes.
But there's no reason that you need to do anything more than that.
Exactly.
Because, again, remember
just
what
make it hot.
Were. Yeah, so those Clash of Champions shows were almost like, how do I put this? Preludes to pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to give you maybe the whole thing. We're going to give you a little prelude to the major angles, the major stories, and the major players.
Exactly.
But you'll get the bigger, longer, more. See, the problem is now is that everything there used to be when we were training to do TV, you had basically a house show match style, you had a TV style, and you had a pay-per-view style. That doesn't exist anymore. Everything's full on, full blast, in your face pay-per-view style.
Yeah.
So then when you get to the pay-per-view, much of the time people are disappointed or they're hurt or it's just. Again, you've already done your 87 Canadian destroyers on TV
for free.
So you can't do anything, fancy on the pay-per-view that they haven't already seen.
I agree. Okay, so the pre-main event, co-main event, whatever you want to call it. Rick Rude with Paulie Dangerously defeated Sting for the United States heavyweight title. And this was where earlier in the show, Luger took out Sting's knee that had been repaired after the whole Flair gimmick a year earlier. And the main event of the card, Lex Luger as the WCW World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
Defending, and by the way, in his corner, Mr. Hughes and Harley Race.
Yep.
And they defended against Rick Steiner.
Wow.
Like I said, and this is one of the worst eras in wrestling. And I would watch this whole card over and over again.
Yeah. Well, what made it the worst era, though, was, at least overall, was well, it did get illogical. But think of some of the gimmicks. Like, while we still had some great ones, you had PN News, which was kind of a flop. You had Van Hammer was really, he had a great look, but the gimmick itself was like, you know. So it was just that era where Jim Herd wanted to, for Christ's sake, what did he want to make Flair a gladiator or some bullshit?
Spartacus.
Yeah. So he had no clue. The guy had no clue, should have never been in wrestling. And I have no problem saying that. Neither do most people. He just had no clue. But the other thing that made it really bad was when you had too many bookers who wanted too many different things, right? So, there was talk of having Nikita Koloff, have a run with the heavy. Matter of fact, he was offered the world heavyweight title, according to him, but he just couldn't do it because, he had a young wife who was very, very sick at the time. So you still had a lot of the really good gimmicks left that you don't need to make everybody a cartoon character. I don't look at Goldust as a cartoon character. I look at it like, I didn't look at Exotic Agent Street as a cartoon character, or, the original Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, or even Flair. They're very, very flamboyant gimmicks, but they weren't cartoon characters. I don't need a cartoony rapper, which is why Cena failed for me from the start. Like the gimmick, not as a person in a overall worker, not necessarily a technician, but a pretty decent worker by and large. But that's where it failed for me, is that whole, don't take the guys who have been around for years and try to put some stupid, dumbass, cartoony gimmick that they don't buy, the crowd doesn't buy, and the other boys don't buy.
Well, and that was kind of the problem then, is they were trying to do what Vince was doing.
But he was doing it a lot better. Vince was
doing it a lot better, but let's not forget by 93, I would say, most of that stuff started failing.
Yeah. It did. That's when they had the whole debacle where they legitimately behind the scenes tried to rejoin the NWA. So you had Rick Rude as an international champion. There was some really compelling stuff with some great, real legitimate workers like Rick. Sting was really up and coming. Sting, man, Sting shouldered that company for a long time, even when he wasn't really ready to do it. But he had some great matches with Great Muta, which go kind of, that was also another great TV title feud that kept them alive for a while. But I think that when we look at where we've come to today, everything on that card, even the I don't want to disparage anybody because I just didn't like the personas, but the Firebreaker Chips, I couldn't care less about the persona. Right. Even the guys that worked on that level, a very green Van Hammer, a PN News, I would be willing to bet if I watched that match and compared it to that women's tag team match last night, fundamentally it was 1,000 times better. I know it was, just because of the guys on the other end of who they were wrestling. But you can't, as a fan, you can't accept something being good because you're buying the bullshit of the hype from the commentary team. Their job is to cover when everybody fucks up, which that match was full of fuck ups. And their job is also to get people over. So they're good. They do their job well. That's a testament to them. Why, honestly, with the shit that they have to cover up and put on. I give you another example, of because I told you I had many. There was a spot where it was just an arm wringer spot, where you're trading and you're doing some fancy Well, Charlotte slipped and didn't get to do her fancy, fucking cartwheel. Went right back into it. Steve, what is Wrestling 101? What would have happened in training if we blew a spot and went right back to it? What do you think your trainer would have said?
My trainer,
Would you call some shit?
not even Larry at this point, because when I was training, Larry wasn't doing much of the active training so much. So it was
Right.
Ed the Razor, and let me
Mhm.
let me see if I can channel my inner Ed and get his.
Okay. I want to hear it because I'm
I
sure
want
I know, but
let me see if I can get his
so you
voice. And
blew
it's
the
been a while
spot
since
and
I've
you
done
went right
this.
back into it to get your shit in.
Yeah, like
That's all it was.
Ed has one of those things where, like, if you ever trained under him,
Mhm.
it's kind of like training under Stu. Like, Stu Hart has that very specific demeanor that you can channel. Ed has it. So let me just give me a second. I need to get into character. Thank you. Jesus Christ, Steve, that was the drizzling fucking shit. If you
Drizzling
ever
shit.
did that on television, God damn it, Steve, that was a D- at
Exactly.
fucking best. What the fuck is wrong with you? Get me some chocolate
Exactly.
milk.
Exactly. So here's the other side of that. Everybody will run to her defense. Well, she was probably told she had to get that in. Maybe she was, but that's still not, doesn't make it right. It
Right.
was still obvious that she was trying to get that in. There was another spot where she cartwheeled through something, wasn't even fucking close to the person. Just the way that the ropes were being run, it looked like a half-ass effort to me. Now, the worst part, you guys want to hear the worst part of the whole
Oh,
fucking
that
thing?
that wasn't the worst part.
Oh, God, no. The
Oh,
worst
geez.
part
Yes,
was
get to the roast beef.
that figure eight maneuver, which I still try to figure out how that really hurts more than a figure four, but it looks fancy, so I'm okay with it. The tag partner was I'm going to get names wrong because I'm not super familiar. I think it was Lyra Valkyrie.
Lyra Valkyria.
She stops Bailey from tapping. Here's two problems on this. So she stops and she's just laying flat, spread out because she's waiting for the spot from Bliss to come do something to her. So she's all in position and she stops and she's holding her from tapping. When the fuck are you not allowed to verbally give up in wrestling? I challenge any fan to tell me that because that's never been a rule, ever. You can verbally quit. You
In
don't
fact, that's
have
how
to
they
tap.
used to always do it.
That's how they
Yeah.
used to do it. The only reason they went to tapping is because UFC brought some realism in and they were trying to put a little bit more realism, but not knowing what they're doing by and large, these boardroom writers and people who don't know wrestling don't know that their only reason ever in combat sports you tap is when you cannot talk, i.e., a face lock, a neck crank, a choke. When you have a
Yeah.
leg maneuver or a joint maneuver, you're perfectly fine to say uncle. That's how they did it in the carnies. That's how they did it in competitive shoot matches. That's how they fucking do it in jiu-jitsu. You don't just have to tap,
Yeah.
period. So that's
I'll
a
I'll
dumb. So
I'll
what
give
made
you
it
this
even
one too,
worse is
Mozart.
you take it. Wait, I'm not done. She's holding it, and this goes on for like 5 or 6 seconds because they want everybody to know that she's not letting her tap. By now, she's screaming like a banshee, but she never said "I quit." And then, why are you sitting there? Because you're waiting for the spot.
Yeah,
Why do you not?
instead of kicking
Why do you
the
not
other person
save your
off.
partner? What's
Right.
that?
Instead of kicking
So
the other
why,
person off.
instead of kicking the other person off, you're just now. If you had slid in, stopped her from the tap, and broke it, fucking excellent psychology. So I understand that they think they know what they're doing, but they have no clue. I was done. I was like, that would never fly on a show that I was on, and I'm still on shows and active. That would make everybody scratch their head. Howard would have went to get some roast beef. Slim would have fell out of his chair having a heart attack talking about how fake it was. That's exactly what I thought. I'm like, but at least two of those people probably make seven figures and the other pretty close to it. I'm like, this is unacceptable. And whoever let this go, it's unacceptable. I can't not call that out. Like I don't like, and it's not a thing, as I said earlier, of, oh, well, you're just not there. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
I
It's
I don't want to
irrelevant
be.
because I don't want to be exactly, and I'm also well past the age with a pension and a 401k and a house that I would ever want to be. But the point is that when, as I said earlier, remember this, and I urge fans because it's up to you guys to kind of stop watching so
But
they get the point.
but
Stop
who
ordering a new
puts
pay-per-view. Hold on.
right.
Stop ordering a new app. Stop ordering the next thing that they want you to go do. Stop getting up at 5 in the morning to watch their dumb pay-per-view from across the world. And I only say that because it won't change unless you actually stop. And if you're accepting that and think that that's okay, Man, that's not wrestling. Just honestly go back and go back at least 25 years. I want you at least 25 years to go watch a match. I urge you to really go back to the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. Not that there's not stuff sprinkled in here and there in the modern era, but it's going to be hard to find.
We
Find
could
Kurt
go all
Angle
the
and Rey Mysterio.
We could go back to, I know Steve brought up Clash of the Champions, which was a hook that got him.
I was fired up. You guys got me triggered. Change the name to Triggered again. But, Jesus Christ.
We can go, let's go all the way back to Clash of Champions 1, which aired March 27th, 1988.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what else aired March 27th, 1988?
WrestleMania 4.
WrestleMania. So this
WrestleMania
was
4
because
they cross programmed, they counter programmed, and that's always one of my big arguments with Tony fucking moving his shows up. I'm sorry, like everyone can argue with me on this one. It's an act of goddamn cowardice.
It is because he's not going to win. Absolutely, he'll never win. So
this was going head to head with WrestleMania. Now, it was only 5 matches.
Yep.
Your first match was Mike Rotunda, beating Jimmy Garvin in a college rules match. Went about 6 minutes. Not a great match, but probably not a bad match either.
Jimmy Garvin with Precious.
Yes,
with Precious. Rotunda with Kevin Sullivan.
Hey, did you know something about Jimmy Garvin, though? He ain't going nowhere.
Then you had the Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane with Jim Cornette.
I remember this.
Against the Fantastics, Fulton and Rogers.
I remember it. It was awesome.
Again, stellar match. Then, you bring out the Road Warriors and Dusty with Paul Ellering.
Hey, Howard, guess what you won't see in that Fantastics and Midnights match? Whipping your opponent into their own corner so they can just tag their partner at willy-nilly because that's where the spot was supposed to happen.
Right.
I don't know. Call me crazy.
Right, yeah. Call me crazy. Call me nonsensical.
Call me kooky, Howard.
Right. You have the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes with Paul Ellering.
Yep.
Against the Powers of Pain, the Barbarian and the Warlord, and Ivan Koloff with Paul Jones. In a barbed wire match. Now, I imagine only goes 3 minutes, 39 seconds, but you have...
Because it's a barbed wire match.
Right. You have 6 of the biggest, arguably 6 of the biggest names in the business.
Yeah.
It's mid-card right now. We're only halfway through the show.
It's 6 minutes for a mid-card match. And I don't know how they do this when I don't know if it tells you, Howard. Does it tell you if that's just match time?
That's just match time.
If you get entrances,
I believe that's just match time.
Straight match time.
If you get entrances, you've probably got a good 15-minute segment. See, that's how we were always taught, Howard, is segments. Hey, Ruth, you got a 15-minute segment tonight. It might be a 7-minute match, but you've got 7 minutes for the play the crowd, to do your mic work, whatever they want you to do.
And then you got for the NWA World Tag Team titles, you have Luger and Wyndham against Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard with J.J. Dillon.
I mean, that match any night of the week. So there's 3 or 4 matches on there. I forget them already because it's me. There's 3 or 4 matches already that could main event anywhere. Those guys in their prime could main event anywhere today. Yep. And you'd legitimately be drawing. See, this is the other thing that we got to talk about too, is that they've all companies now, and it's kind of a shame, and Vince did kind of spearhead this. Nobody's paying for the main event guys, so nobody's really paying for Stone Cold, for The Rock, for Reigns, for Cena. What they're really paying for is WWE, the letters, because everybody's become expendable. Now, again, you can kind of understand that because the company has to brand themselves, but at the same time, it's a fine line, because if you're not creating a star, then they're not watching your brand anyway. People will eventually realize the brand sucks now. But anyway, carry on, Howard. I apologize.
And then in your main event, you have.
Oh, I thought that was it. Holy shit!
No.
I know what I knew what the main event was the whole time, but I love this main event.
And it's a doozy because it's Ric Flair and Sting for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. goes to a 45-minute time limit draw.
That's right, because that's the one that's where he put Sting on the map.
Yeah.
How the fuck did I forget that? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of that.
And they essentially, because that's 88. That's kind of, that's where they kind of made the decision to pull the trigger on Sting. And they decided he was going to be the big, good-looking babyface that they backed because, unfortunately, Magnum had the car accident.
Magnum had the
so
car
if
accident,
you look at this is when was this? This is March 88. So realistically, about a year and a half after Magnum's accident, they're doing this. This is, hey, like, this is the guy this is going to be our guy. Because I think in between there that they had already tried Ricky Morton with Flair, and they had tried some of those other guys, the Ronnie Garvins and stuff like that.
Tried to slide Wyndham into that spot, but for whatever reason, it was, he didn't stay in promotions long, or something always kind of go wrong. But he was kind of that, from what I understand, was kind of on that go-to too. Hey, Howard, here's something that I didn't know. I was reading this the other day because I was talking to somebody, and I'm like, it was funny that a lot of the second generation guys, their dad didn't train them. Do you know who gets credit for Wyndham, other than Blackjack? But it wasn't really Blackjack. Do you know? Don't look it up.
No.
Harley Race.
Really?
He learned on the job. They put Barry in the ring, and I'd love to. If we could ever talk to Barry, that would be gold. He was my favorite wrestler growing up. Apparently, after he learned a couple of the basics, and presumably from Blackjack, they put him immediately on the road in the ring with Harley to learn on the job.
Jesus.
That's who today, with no disrespect to anybody, could you take a green kid and put on the road and say, I'm going to make a fucking star?
Right in his
and
bio.
Not only make a star, you made a really great worker out of that star.
You know what? I will come to the aid of the current product. There's only one guy that they did it with, and it's because, and again, it's a second generation guy, and that's Breaker. Breaker. They released almost right out of the gates into it, not just onto the program, but like they had Breaker in there. He wrestled the #1 contender for the NXT title on like his first event. So he kind of came out the chute, but it's not. It's not a thing realistically. Do you
get the feeling though? Do you get the feeling that he probably knows way more than he should at this stage of the game for whatever reason, whether it was Scott or Rick, or they put him with somebody? Because I feel like he's calling the matches. I mean, I don't feel like he's the guy following a lot of times.
I think
I could be wrong.
I think he might be a savant, and I also think
that's what I'm getting at. Yeah,
and I think he might also be so. He's got all the best qualities of his father and his uncle.
Yeah.
He has all the best qualities of Rick and Scott. But also, one of those great qualities that he gets from both of them is he's so damn strong. And I've heard this before.
It's freakish. I mean,
but he's so strong that the green almost wipes off of him because of it.
Oh my God. We lost you, Steve. Howard, did you hang up on Steve?
No, I swear I didn't hang up on him. He just froze.
Hey, did you see me? Yeah, I'm sorry, you saw me getting all fired up about that fucking whole tap out thing. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Oh no, what I was saying though is Breaker's so strong that it's almost like that wipes the green off of him a little bit too. So a lot of these moves that that you and I and anyone that's involved in the business would tell somebody, don't do that. Like, again, what's the line? I want you at a 5% difficulty, but 100% success rate type of thing. I think some of the stuff that he does, it's more difficult than what he should be doing at the stage of the game that he is at and has been at. Yeah, but he's so strong and so athletic that it makes up for it. It bridges that gap. So like, that when he's doing that suplex, that belly to belly suplex, or that gorilla press, or whatever it is he's doing, that guy's going up and he's going to stay there. and nothing bad is going to happen to that guy because he's not going to drop him. And
he did that gorilla press last night on LA Night and ripped him off the ground like he wasn't shit. Now, again, I understand wrestling, so I don't need anybody, not you guys, but I don't need fans to think, well, I've been in the ring. I've done that move. I've never performed it. I've taken it many times. I'm not that strong. I don't give a shit how well you're fed. You still need to be strong. And he was just like, boom, he's strong.
And LA Knight's not a small dude.
No.
He's a 230.
This is going to be a controversial take, but you guys know I just started watching, the wrestling. I don't watch anything but WWE because it's maybe some TNA if I can find it. But I think LA Knight needs to be out of the heavyweight. I don't get him. I honestly I just see him acting too much like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it bothers me. And when it comes to, I think the miles that he's put on his body shows every time he's in the ring. I don't think that they should pull the trigger. Here's the thing too. I'll ask you first, Steve, and then Howard, from your perspective. Do we need to see the heavyweight title on everybody? Because I feel like now it's everybody. There's a list of when is this one going to get it? When is this one going to get it? What do you think?
I don't.
It seems like.
I don't. And I actually said this. I know we talked about Mike Rotunda before and how he's having his health stuff going on. And I'm going to bring up Bray at this point. I didn't think that Bray Wyatt actually needed the world heavyweight title at any point.
No, he brought something so unique. I 100% agree with you.
I will tell you exactly why. And I know he got compared to Mankind a lot or Mick Foley just in general. And like Foley even said that Bray was doing a better Mankind than he could, which that's high praise. I'm going to compare him to someone else in this case. Bray reminded me more of Jake the Snake Roberts than Mankind. He
see that nuance.
Bray was very well suited to be the guy that you worked a program with to figure out if you were ready for the world title. And that's a really important spot. Like I don't need him to have a title. I need him to have arguably the most important feud for 3 months.
You go back and look at the guys who didn't hold the top title, right? So Arn, Bobby, Rick Rude had that run with the international title, but for sake of Rick Rude, I mean, you could go down the list. Mike Rotunda, Ted DiBiase. They were so good and have this incredible place in wrestling history and so revered. You just didn't need it. Jake himself. You didn't need to put the top title of the time on guys, but today it seems like if they cheer for you and buy a little bit of merchandise, that's part of the plan. And I'm like, it shouldn't be though, because it makes it feel like everybody gets their turn at some point. I personally, nothing against the guy. I've never met him. I think he's a good worker, but he's not the guy I'm looking to put a title on of that. Right. That top title on, honestly.
Howard, what do you think? Do you think you need to hold it?
No. Did Piper need to hold the title?
Wait, hold on. Go back. Who are we talking about?
Just anybody. Just because you said that. Do you need to have that world title to? You had asked if you need to hold that world title to be relevant.
Does every top guy need to hold the title?
No,
I think it looks like Piper was a top guy. He's another one. Arn was a top guy. The problem now is, I think that particularly in WWE, I don't know, pick 10 top guys. They're going to hold the title, and there's going to be some, they did this, they did. Every top guy does not need to hold the title. The reason they don't need to hold the title is it makes the title look like a piece of shit. Everybody does not need to hold the title. Like this, they have 18 other titles, You could tell a compelling story about somebody who just almost got there and didn't get. See, that's the problem, is it's a check mark now. Like you said, man, it's a spreadsheet booking shit. Oh, well, we pay this guy this. Oh, they have to wear the belt then. No, they absolutely don't. I honestly, and I think it worked, but they took a gamble putting it on Uso. You know, now what's going to happen, and I fucking promise you, is they'll have to put it on Jimmy at some point. But why do they have to? Why would that ever be something that they would need to do? But I feel like they think they need to. You know,
right? And first of all, they should never put it on anybody. And secondly, not everybody deserves it, because if you put it on everybody, then they said it's got no value. If everybody wins the Super Bowl, you know, we give every team a Super Bowl,
right?
Yeah.
What's the big deal? If every team gets World Series ring, every team wins the Stanley Cup, you know.
What happened with the big guys too? I think it was Jimmy Cornette that said, now you got a bunch of guys who were the size of Andre the Giant. What would make Andre special? You know?
Yeah.
So,
and
just because you go out of your way to go find the next 7-foot guy doesn't mean that they're Andre. Because
and also don't forget the way the business was structured back then too. The attraction guys, the Andres. So Andre, Abdullah, the Sheik.
Yeah.
These guys who worked attraction style matches, they weren't there every week.
Right.
You know, Andre was in Portland one night, and then he was in Miami a week later, or in Florida a week later, and then he was in New York a week after that, and then he was in Texas a week after that, and then he was with Vern, and then he would make his rounds. And same thing for Abby. Abdullah would do the same thing, where you didn't see Abdullah stab somebody with a fork every single week, so it didn't play it out. It was you know, we talked about registering in the ring, but it registered with the crowd. The fact of the matter is we see John Moxley bleed 3 days a week. It doesn't matter anymore.
Mean anything.
Right.
It doesn't.
And that's what made these guys, especially like Andre, special, because they, like you said, they go to Portland, and he's in Portland. Well, if you live in Portland, you don't know when the next time is you're going to see Andre, so you're going to buy a ticket to go to that particular show. And these bookers knew it. They knew that, all right, I can book him now, and in 3 months from now, I'm bringing him right back. I say right back, but I'm bringing him back in. He's going to be in my shows 4 times a year, and that's when I'm going to make all of my money, because he's a special attraction. If you see something week after week after, it's like watching the same TV show, the same episode. No matter how great you like it, it's like, man, how many times can I watch this same episode over and over and over again?
Well, and that's the thing is, and if you're booking Andre that way, or booking Abdullah, or booking the Sheik, or whoever it is that way, and you know you're going to get a big crowd because of it, okay, well, I'm paying Andre $2,000. I'm just, throwing a number out there, but I'm making $20,000 off the gate.
Right.
And I know my profit margin, no matter what, is going to be at least $10,000, regardless of what I'm paying for the building or whatever. Let's say there's no matter what, there's going to be $10,000 loose money. That also lets you bring in other big name guys for that show. And okay, Howard, me, you, and Mozart are going to see Andre. My God, I've never gotten to see Andre before. I can't wait to see him. But then you also put Harley on the card, or you put Ricky Steamboat on the card, or you put, maybe 2 or 3 guys that you've never heard of. You put a Dynamite versus Tiger Mask at the beginning of the card.
Oh man, now you're talking my language.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you do that at the beginning, and then you main event with Andre, and all of a sudden you've hooked somebody, because one way or another, you're catching them at that point, because now they are going to show up every week, because, oh my God, did you see the wrestling last week? Now I got to go. I got to spend $10 to see the show next week. I know Andre's not going to be there, but the other 7 matches they put on were so good.
Yeah. But isn't that the kind of the perfect mix of branding your name, whatever banner you're coming to see, whether it would have been World Class, Mid-South. So that promotion then gets a reputation for great guys, but they don't necessarily have to depend on one guy. Whereas you didn't depend on one guy for everything, but then you didn't pretty much make everybody a nameless, faceless wrestler to sell some merch and, sell a toy or whatever. And then history forgets about them, which happens a lot. And we're still talking about, and a lot of younger fans I run into, they can tell you a lot about some of the stars of the past, a lot of the stars from the past, but they can't tell you a whole lot about the blur of names that happened since 2000. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of people that can recite to you. Hell, I'm forgetting a lot of them, because they're just interchangeable names and faces, and I still subject, and only time will tell, that people won't be talking about John Cena, Roman Reigns, anybody like they talk about Hulk Hogan, Harley Race, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes. And the reason is because, again, the promotion, it wasn't just, the tagline was the National Wrestle Alliance, where the big boys play or whatever they had at the time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just like you were paying to go see the 3 letters NWA. And I'm not talking about the rap group either, Steve. You were paying to see, I know this promotion is bringing me to top names. Don't know who I'm going to see every week. And I know I'm not going to see everybody every week, which they kind of don't do that now, but they've definitely made it. John Cena doesn't matter. The Rock doesn't matter. What matters is now WWE.
Yeah. Well, they're Band-Aid. We said it last week. They're Band-Aid. Yeah. They're Jacuzzi. They're, they're Q-tip.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's no one that's bigger than that company.
WWE. Yeah.
Now I could argue, and there's an argument both ways, but I could argue that Hogan was bigger than the WWF.
Yeah, at one point he certainly was, and and I think that's what changed it. When I'm talking to some of my mentors, when Hogan left and business was like, I mean, you're talking at a time when Vince thought he was going to jail. He's, talking to, different guys. Jerry Jarrett, I think he had tapped to run it. This was a real bad time. It was really close to closing down. I know today's modern fan doesn't realize how close that they almost didn't get WWE anymore. You had this real bad time, and Hogan's gone. They didn't. I'm sorry to say it. Like, I know they started the brand Brett and Shawn in the mid '90s, but they were never what Hogan was for that era previous to him, and they were not what Steve Austin became. Who actually, when you think about it, Steve was the next big
guy.
Boom part.
He was the next real big guy.
But it didn't last as long as Hogan's run did, because Hogan's was over 10 years.
So
Austin was hurt.
Yeah.
He really didn't.
It was the end of his career. Let's face it,
the end of his career.
By the time Austin had gotten the reins for the WWF, when it became the Attitude Era and the era of Austin and all of that, all those things, the Austin 316.
Yeah.
Steve Austin had been working for quite a while at that point.
Yeah. He wasn't putting on the match quality he was putting on with Steamboat for the World
No, because he had been so injured by that point. He had been in WCW. He had been when Dallas was doing what was that? Global Wrestling.
Global Wrestling Federation.
GWF. He was in Dallas for a real long time. Yeah. So, and don't forget, he played football before that. Like, he was an athlete forever.
Oh, definitely. But I just put it in a scope of how long he lasted, and then kind of on the heels of that, the whole company became hot, and I think that's when it became probably. I'm just guessing. I don't know Vince, but that's probably when he decided, hey, nobody can ever be bigger than this company. And if you think back to the early 2000s, that's when they started to make even the top guys pretty faceless. I mean, I think Cena was absolutely by design. Think about if they didn't polarize the crowd and tell you on TV every week, Jim Ross yelling, the crowd is polarized. They don't know who to cheer for. Like, never had one guy, to my knowledge, had one guy been booed on one half of the building and the other half was cheering to that degree. And then they let that happen and pushed it. And I always was like, why? Well, over the years, I started to realize because they couldn't have one guy being bigger than the company, not even him. Vince had lost The Rock to Hollywood. I'm sure that stung a little bit. He had lost The Rock to Hollywood.
You lost Lesnar to just being Lesnar.
I was going to say to just being Lesnar. But I would argue that Lesnar was never the top.
No,
Well,
but
like
I
say
think
Rock and
he was
Taker
being groomed
he was
for
being
it.
groomed to be. Oh, he
He
was
was
for sure.
like if you got another year out of Lesnar and he just loved it,
But
he would have.
Does he feel flat to you guys now? Like, I don't care that he's back. Like, I don't feel like
no, I agree. And
is he
the whole
back,
thing
though?
just
I mean,
feels flat.
it was one time. Like, is he back?
We don't know, because for all we know, he could be seen as last match. Who knows? Who knows? No one really knows. No one knows. It's all fake news.
Well, did they not do it? You know, one of the shittiest jobs in booking in the history of booking is how they've handled Cena's last run.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
Nothing good about that.
Before we get too hot about that, because I'll go down that rabbit hole and we'll talk for 3 more hours. Unfortunately,
people get mad about that.
I'm already mad about it. I wanted to ask you both of you guys this because we were talking about Hogan and him being bigger than the WWF.
Yeah, he was.
Now, Howard, you are. I consider myself a wrestling historian. Howard, you far outweigh me in that aspect.
Yeah, I don't know shit. I'm like, Howard, what date did this happen? When did that happen?
So in the grand history of wrestling, think about all the different top guys that eventually either got or wanted a piece of the promotion that they were working for.
Mm-hmm.
Even Ole at one point, you could say he was the book, but Ole was on the chair. Gorilla Monsoon at one point was a part of the owners.
Well, Ole was Georgia Championship Wrestling for the longest time.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, Vern was the promoter, but realistically, like, Vern was also his own top star. Like, it's
right.
The Von Erichs are a little different, but there's a lot of those promotions. There's been a lot of guys who like, hey, I want 10%. I want this. I want that.
Yeah.
Hogan never did that. And it's always one of those things. I heard this question asked recently somewhere else too. What do you think would have happened if Hogan decided, like, hey, 86, let's say, Mania hits, you've got the Mania crowd. Hogan, without Hogan, you don't have Mania.
Right.
And he goes, all right, moving forward, I want even a small amount. I want 5% of the company. I want to be a 5% owner of the company. I want to be in this as much as you are. Like, it's funny because I think at one point it got to a point where it would have been like him holding up, but I don't know if Hogan would have asked in a hold up type of way. I think it would have been on business. I'm doing as much work as you are, Vince. I think I deserve part of this.
Wow. I don't know.
There's a lot to unpack with that one. Sorry.
Yeah. No. I'm just trying to think. How would it have changed?
Because he never did. And I don't think it's a matter of biting the hand that feeds you. Because realistically, he's feeding everybody at that point. Hogan, right, like we said, without Hogan, you don't have the national expansion the way you do. It doesn't. You don't. I don't care what anyone says. It doesn't work the same way with Snuka. It doesn't work the same. And I love him. I love him to death. It doesn't work the same way with Steamboat. Unless even if they went and they saw something before everyone else did, it doesn't. I don't think it works this. And we all love him. I know how much Howard loves him. It doesn't work with Magnum the same way. It doesn't.
It would not have been.
I don't know if it works the same way with Dusty. And like,
it doesn't.
That's the closest one. I think Dusty is the closest one they could have pitched it to.
He was considered before Hogan,
and they said he just didn't get it. But if sake of argument, if Dusty got it, I don't know if it works the same. I think it had to be.
It lasts maybe a year.
Yeah, I think it had to be Hogan.
Yeah, I think it had to be.
It had to be Hogan.
If you're talking about pure what they were trying to do, it had to be Hogan because unfortunately he was blonde-haired, blue-eyed. He was built like a machine. He was tall. He was charismatic. There's not one thing that you would want that he was missing.
Exactly.
He was technically savvy enough. He was good enough in the ring. So, my opinion is it worked with nobody else. I mean, as much
exactly.
as I love
and Mozart, what I was asking is, all the throughout the history of wrestling, there's a lot of times where the top guy asks for a piece of the company. Hogan never did.
That was a thing. It was an aspiration of a lot of guys because it was like a business model where Thez had part of St. Louis and Ed Lewis before him, and after those guys, Harley had parts of business. It was
Kansas
part of
City,
the business model of a top star, Kansas City. Yeah. Obviously Eddie Graham, got into Florida. It's a very storied part of wrestling. But my question, and I heard you, the question in my mind is, why did Hogan never? Was it something that Vince explained, or was it the fact that, I don't know this, but this is what I'm pondering on. Did he not ask for a piece because maybe at that point, maybe he had learned enough? Because you look at the guys that Hogan came up under, Harley, Vern, Matsuda, everybody was very, very traditional and old school. But maybe they said to him, if you want to make the money, kid, I'm just throwing this out there. I have no clue. I have nothing. This is just me. If you want to make the money, kid, stay out of owning it because you're that guy. You're that guy,
Right.
What do you
think,
where
Howard? My point was going to go is he was making gobs and gobs of money as the guy. If he buys into ownership, whether 5, 10, whatever percentage you want to assign, doesn't handcuff him and not allow him to go on to be the Hollywood star and the pop icon that he became, because he's tied too closely to this company now, and he can't get out from underneath that WWF umbrella and branch out and be this actor, everything that he became outside of pro wrestling. And I think that's where
we'll use the term actor loosely.
Yes. And that's where his
Agreed.
Aspirations were. He wanted more than just pro wrestling.
His best book was Rocky III, because that was him, man. That's what set the stage on fire. But I think, Howard, to kind of piggyback.
No holds barred, my friend. No holds barred.
I know. Well, I'm forgetting about these classics, but
and you can't discount Mr. Nanny either. Like, you got to include that.
Maybe it never.
You can't discount Mr. Nanny. In fact, if you go try to buy it, it is in the discount bin.
Look what happened though when he did have a creative say. Maybe at that early stage, maybe somebody was saying, don't have creative say or you can't be the top guy. Because when he did have creative say, look how WCW went to hell. Like, my belief as a wrestler, and if I were into, promoting, and I guess I know enough about it, it's not really a passion, but I've been around it a lot. I don't want my top guy having creative say, because it is an absolute conflict of interest. It's like, I work for a bank, I work for Chase Bank. We're absolutely not allowed, and we signed something saying I can't go work part-time for Bank of America. That's a fucking absolute conflict of interest. So by and large, it's not by and large, it's exactly the same thing. You can't be a top star in a territory and have creative say. It absolutely has never worked out good. Again, if you look back at examples where I went back to some of the older guys having those pieces, they still didn't have creative say. NWA had a board, and NWA decided if Dez was going to run with the championship.
That's where I'm at. Is I don't know if I'm not even saying like he got creative control, but like,
just would he?
If he got a piece again, like Gorilla had a piece of New York.
Mm-hmm.
Monsoon was what, like, I think he was like a 25% owner at one point.
I think by the time Vince took it over, this is just my understanding, that it was understood that it's Vince and
Vince bought the whole thing. Vince got the whole thing.
Probably,
but like when Gorilla was there with Vince Sr., it was like Vince Sr. was like 50%, and Gorilla got, I think originally, I believe they talk about it in a newer book, but I think it was Gorilla originally got like 10%, and then someone else was letting like 15% default or something like that, or he wanted to sell his.
Was it Toots Mond, or was it?
I think it might have been Toots.
I think it Toots and he maybe even I'm probably wrong about this.
I think it might have been Toots.
Was it Buddy Rogers early on, or was Buddy just a talent?
Was Buddy might have been the I think actually Buddy might have been the one that he took the other part from. I think Toots might have gotten 25%.
I think it was Capital before. We just looked this up not that long ago. I think it was Capital before 63 when they had put the belt on Buddy Rogers to kick off Worldwide Wrestling Federation. I think that's what it was.
Oh, but I never realized that that technically Vincent K. McMahon is the third generation owner of the company.
Yeah, it was
Jess McMahon, apparently. I'm just looking at it now.
Capital. Yeah. Yep. So it's got a rich history. That's why when we were looking up the history of ECWA, I wanted to get it right, and it's second only to as far as our research could find, right, Howard? It was the second only to Capital Wrestling because the NWA has broken so many times, and even the NWA was originally the National Wrestling Association. So Thez's first run, although I believe they include in his 6, was not National Wrestling Alliance, it was National Wrestling Association before it all melded into the Alliance, which would have been in like the 30s, I think. But the lineage is still there. You can't really deny that. But that's the fun part to kind of debate and learn. But I think Capital, as an organization, was well into the 50s with Jesse. Started, and then you work your way all the way up. It just grew. So in other words, it never closed. It never became something else. Whereas the NWA had so many fragments, and you had the Portland version of the NWA World Tag Team Champions. So that kind of stuff, as I started to grow up a little bit more, Howard, and look into that, kind of really, I don't know what the right word is. Maybe it kind of was like took a little wind out of my sails because it made me feel like what I knew is the NWA World Title and World Tag Team titles didn't quite have the depth that I thought it did, although they were really rich and deep by the time that they were, the top titles in wrestling,
Okay, so the original ownership with Vince Sr. was Vince Sr., Monsoon, Arnold Scotland, and Phil Zacco.
Okay. I don't know.
And that actually makes full sense. I know I just heard it recently, and I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
And then I believe with those 4, I think Zacco eventually sold. I think he's originally the one that sold to Gorilla.
The Gorilla, okay.
Because Arnold stuck around. If I recall correctly.
Arnold was there into the 80s because he was.
He was there forever. He was. Arnold Scotland was still managing people in '92 for some reason because that was when Bob Backlund came back. But
wait, wasn't Arnold who threw in the towel for Backlund? That
was Scotland. That was Golden Boy Arnold Scotland.
Yeah.
But and then I think Toots came back around with Vince Jr. later on when he was doing his national expansion, and Toots was able to help him get on TV stuff, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So Toots goes deep back into that whole conglomerate too, which he was part of the original making it a card and a spectacle from top to bottom with I think it was Billy Sandow and Ed Strangler Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the Gold Dust Trio, as they called them that, I believe, in the 30s. And that was an interesting part of it. That's when it became, hey, let's make it a show and a spectacle. Let's work in high spots. Let's not have a, straight shoot match until we work the finish. Like then they started working it into some really fun stuff in the high spots. I remember reading some of the history where like a high spot was like a leapfrog, and it was also, they referred to that as when the match was, and I was taught that way too. Like it would be interchangeable. Howard, I think we were talking about this where like, if you say high spot now, somebody thinks they're jumping off the chandeliers. That's part of it. But if I'm talking over a match and I say, well, when we get to the high spot, I have to say, well, when I get to the point where the baby face is up and it becomes very exciting, that was also considered the high spot.
Yeah, well, it's the crescendo. It's the
crescendo. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the high spot is. It's
Yeah.
You get to the high spot,
And then it literally became, and then all of a sudden there's Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask, and it literally became the high spot.
Yeah. But like the high spot, my understanding was always because if you're going on a roller coaster ride, you would get to the top of the roller coaster.
Exactly.
And then they bring you on the ride. So that high spot was the top of the roller coaster. We would get you there.
Yeah.
And then the high spot was what took you on the ride.
Yeah.
I talk about it. Me and Showtime had a match years ago, and we turned a bunch of non-wrestling fans into wrestling fans because
cool.
They were there's a place in New Jersey called there was a place in New Jersey called Rova Farms. I refer to it as the Twilight Zone of wrestling. I went out as a baby face and handed an 8-year-old kid my sunglasses. I got booed.
Yeah, you got shit on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They were family members of the wrestlers that were working and drunks from the bar because it was like a VFW or like an American Legion.
That's too funny.
Howard, now we got something on Steve. We could be like, Steve, you give your sunglasses on any kids lately?
Right?
No, just candy.
Jeez.
But so I like literally we had to work an entire like 3/4 of the match before finally God help me, I can't do it now. I even if I got in shape, I couldn't do it. But I did I did AJ Styles. I stole it for the record. Flat out stole from AJ Styles. I did a nip up, and from the nip up, I went right into a Hurricane Rana and took him over. And the fans all of a sudden came.
I couldn't do that ever.
And the fans all of a sudden came along with us. And like that was the point where like as much as we were telling a story, we're telling a story, I looked at Showtime. I go, okay, time to turn it up. Like we actually have to keep them now. So that was my high spot though, was that nip up into the run. And I knew it like this is that. And it started my fire up and my fire up started to go home. And then we went out and had a beer afterwards because we had a really good match. Like isn't that how that works? Wow. Is like that's what I felt like indie wrestling was supposed to be. Was you?
Yeah,
you perform.
And the other side of that coin too.
You wrestle.
Why can't you have that type of match where you're in a battle? It's a fight. Somebody wants to win. Somebody doesn't want to lose. Vice versa. But then you can go out and have dinner afterwards and have a beer. Like, I don't think everything has to be a blood feud. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's really interesting when you're kayfabing a little bit and keeping things like, like I tried not to show up in the car, and I had to travel with people. But if I was wrestling them, I tried not to pull up to the building with them, things like that. But it doesn't necessarily always mean you had to have a blood feud.
No. You could just have a match.
You could just have a match. And
especially indie-wise. Indie wrestling is the every indie show I've ever been on is the epitome of what they used to call a spot show.
Yeah.
And you don't need, and don't get me wrong, I had Michael Mars, Mr. Motion, whatever you want to call him, Shane Taylor at one point. I had him on an interview recently, and one of his things was he's like, indie wrestling is kind of hot again. Like they're drawing again. And I love that for everybody, but
I do too.
It doesn't mean that every match needs to be, you don't need to steal and stealing the show isn't going 25 minutes and making sure you do every move imaginable. One of the things that pisses me off more than anything is Showtime will refer to it a lot of times. There's the move of the night. And I don't know how often it happens in indie wrestling now, but you'll with the big boys, with the WWEs and the AEWs, you'll see it where someone in like a match 2 will hit the most badass move you've ever seen, and then it'll get hit 3 more times over the course of the night.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it was cool the first time I saw it, but now it's just there's
no excuse in the big time. Now, I will say on indie shows, sometimes it's really, really hard to watch the other matches. And sometimes you don't always have the time to go around and say, hey, this wouldn't be me, but I had moves that I did, hey, I'm going to hit the Hurricane. Are you hitting it tonight? But if somebody else is on the card and you can make that effort, don't do it. But when it comes to the big time, when it comes to, and I use that loosely, especially with AEW. When you have producers and you have people, their part of their job should be, I'm producing this match. We're having this, somebody should be, especially when you're putting it on TV. Somebody should be going around saying, "Why
I'm
are
just
you?" Because
saying,
that happens on
I can make
TV
them big
too.
time.
I know you can.
I can make AEW big time.
I think we should definitely, as independent wrestlers, though, and managers and referees, I think we should all kind of make a little bit of a concerted effort to make sure you're not duplicating, as Showtime would say, the move of the night.
Yeah, or at the very least, like, let's know what the finish is for everybody.
Oh God, yeah, that's terrible when you see 3 of the same finishes in a row.
Yeah, or like.
Yeah.
Hey, Mozart, you hit a super kick as your finish while I'm using a super kick as a transitional spot. Well, that
and then I tear
fucking
the
kills it, man.
and you guys are carrying me to the restaurant afterwards.
It's okay because then we're gonna carry Howard to the hospital because he had roast beef.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. He'll be choking, and we'll be like, "Yeah, hey, sorry, man, I got to stop." Howard, did you stop at stop signs? I never thought of that. Did you run red lights? Like, how did that work?
No, I obeyed most of the traffic laws.
So you're choking on a piece of roast beef, and you stop at a stoplight. Oh my God, that is the fucking greatest thing. That's Howard. That makes almost as much sense as not screaming when you can't tap. Like, what's going on here, man?
I'm just
well, he couldn't scream.
The roast beef wasn't going to take me down.
Howard had to tap.
Oh my God.
I'll be a punk, man. I'll beat this roast beef. I got it.
Howard, so when you're I watched the show, especially when I had students on the show. I would try to watch everything and watch it unfold so we could go and kind of critique the show. But you're sitting down and you're watching a show, and like Steve was saying, and you start to see a lot of duplicated moves, or I get a better example. As you escalate the show, we're trying to take the fan on a ride, right? So you'll have the highs and you'll have the lows. And say you have a really hot opening match, which a really good rule of that is, okay, you can do dives in the opening match and leave the ring and do some exciting stuff, but let's leave something for the guys coming behind us too. If you see an opening match or a match 2 or 3 that's really just red hot, are you kind of finished it? Like, oh my God, like I'm finished at this point. Like, I don't need to see anything else. And then anything else you see after that is kind of like, it was cool. But, or from your perspective, should it kind of up the ante and be like, okay, well, this was just a different kind of match. Like, is my question making sense? Because for me,
it does, because I think I expect different types of matches or different things out of matches from different people. You expect, Flair and Steamboat to give you a certain kind of match, right? So, but you wouldn't expect that out of, guys like, the Ultimate Warrior and Honky Tonk Man. You're only going to expect so much out of that match. Like you have a good idea of what these guys are capable of. I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm not saying that, but you kind of know where their wheelhouse is and be like, okay, I expect this.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'll say too, guys that are on of the same caliber, we could say.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You knew, so Flair and Steamboat are going to give you this match. They're going to go 40 minutes. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a completely athletic contest. You're going to leave with your jaw dropped. Now then, 2 other guys that will leave you with your jaw dropped. But I'll be damned if they don't go more than 10 minutes because they're not going to, but they're going to beat the crap out of each other. And that's Dusty and Terry Funk.
Yes.
So they're going to give you a different match than the other one is. But it's still a great match.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Just like, you watch, the Rock and Roll Express against Midnight Express and and they're a great tag team. Then, you bring out, Tully and Arn, against the Russians. Again, still 4 great guys, but it's going to be a completely different match. It's going
to
be
different.
It's going to be great.
Do you think, here's something for both of you guys. I'm asking for a friend, which really means I'm asking for me.
Because we know we got no friends, so we knew where this is headed.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are all these guys?
You guys are. you guys are my friends now, for better or for worse. So,
I'm so sorry.
I know it's it's come down to this virtual world, and but if I'm, let's say I'm in a match or somebody's in a match and they just really put on a stellar match for whatever reason it is. It's compelling, it's athletic, it's everything it should be, and that's the majority of the crowd is, and it's a mid card match, right, or even an opener, and it's really the match that everybody's talking about. I hate to use the term, but they're talking about it as match of the night. But everything else was good. Let's put that out there. Say the whole card was good, but most of the people's favorite match was a match that probably typically you wouldn't think is. But the guys didn't necessarily set out to do, or they didn't. So they didn't do every move in the book so that nobody else could purposely follow them. There's been times when it's like, really, motherfucker? You want somebody to follow that? That was kind of like on purpose. Like, that's almost like a dickhead thing to do.
Yeah, like congratulations, you guys just went 20 minutes and like you did every single move that everyone knows
for anybody else to do, right? And you kicked out of 47 fucking finishers. Like, that's a common problem. But let's turn it around a little bit and say that somebody did the right thing, and the story was just so compelling. And it was a great match on every level, but it left plenty for everybody else. How do you view that? Because I'm looking at it clearly as, hey man, that's just the way the cookie crumbled. I don't think they hurt the rest of the card, but do you think that hurts the card even if it's inadvertent, or do you think because they've left enough for everybody else to do, knowing they're not the only match on the card? Like where do you feel? How do you feel?
I don't think that's a problem, Howard. I'll let you take this as the fan because, and then I'll.
Yeah, I think more so from the fan perspective. Howard,
yeah, and then I'll sprinkle in my thought process in on this one afterwards.
Keep in mind, like you're watching and you're knowledgeable, but take away even some of the knowledge you have and just say you're watching purely as an adult, but a pretty new fan, and that just happens to be the really everybody's favorite match, but it didn't involve the kicking out of 8 finishers and 18 moonsaults and all the stuff that would typically make it. You should just add some context. Like, what do you think?
I think as a fan, if the match looks good, it looks like, you guys are, in a legit fight, whether it's any wrestling match, whatever kind of match you want to call it, whether it's a street fight, whatever the parameters are. If it's just, let's just stick to a straight up wrestling match. If it looks good and makes sense, I actually think less is more. I think you can do less, and and the story makes sense, and kind of where you're headed to makes sense. I don't see why you need. And I forget who said it. Was somebody said something, and it was an older promoter said, "Oh, I need 8 minutes to get all my moves in," and he said, "Well, if you can't get all your moves in the first 3 minutes, then you could take 3 days. You're still not going to get all your moves in." So it's not about, to me, it's not about how many moves you can get into that ring. It's about, does the match look good? Was it a good, solid match? And did it make sense? Did the ending make sense? However it ended, disqualification, pinfall, kind of whatever. Did it make sense to me? And I don't care if all you did were arm bars and body slams, because it made sense and it looked
good, because that's going to be what me and Mozart do in our match.
Right. Yeah, man. You can,
and by the way, I'm not doing the body slam. We're just doing the arm bars.
Oh, I'll take the body slam.
Gorilla would call them, Gorilla, and Ventura back in the day, the arm bar, was kind of like a rest hold. They're resting here. It's not inflicting a lot of pain, although it's controlling, but allows your opponent, who's got the upper hand, a chance to catch his breath. And so as long as it makes sense and it was a good match, to me, I'm not counting high spots or, oh, they did this. That's not, to me, that's just me personally.
Well, I saw, that just made me think of something last night too, Howard. I was watching, I think it was JD McDonough, who I think is really, really fantastic to watch, and Sheamus, who I like for the brutality. And there was a a point where I don't know that I can even blame the guys for this. I don't know who to blame, but I just know it's wrong. JD started working his leg, and the next thing you know, he's just moved on, and he's got a body scissors wrapped around him, and he's kind of got like a rear naked choke, and that's what they started to work. But yet the commentators still continued to talk about the leg, and it made 0 points. Like I tell you, that show last night made 0 sense from a logic standpoint. And when you see so I just wanted to footnote that. So that was another one of my grievances, just to kind of throw it in there. But that makes no sense, and I know that's wrong. There is no. I don't care that they're on TV. There's no reason they can tell me that it was okay. That's why they did it. It was right. Well, it doesn't matter. That's wrong. That's incorrect. That really made me, as a fan, and you could tell even the fans in the arena, like, and JD can really turn it on and really excite people, right?
Yeah,
Sheamus
yeah, absolutely.
Over. The people popped for Sheamus, so they were clearly into both of these guys. But you could see they were getting lost on that. It was just, why did you just start working his leg, and now you're doing something completely different? Which would have been fine had he not started working on the leg and then just fucking forget about it. But back to what you were saying, Howard. So you were, I think maybe what I'm trying to put into context, because I'm actually trying to learn from this too. This isn't just me asking useless questions. Like, I'm trying to kind of, maybe educate, some of the fans or the people who'd be interested in some of this stuff.
And Mozart Fontaine.
And for me too, yeah, because I'm in a unique position on the next. Well, I'm in a unique position on the next card that I'm wrestling on. So, I'm going to look at this card a lot closer than I have, recently. I'm really going to have to go through and look at the lineup, and I'm going to have to do everything I was trained to do to be able to, perform where we need to, but in the context of what we need to do. So
17 super kicks.
Yeah, man. I tell you, it's funny too, because I'll tell you a funny story. Jim would laugh at this. I was trying to throw a super kick in school in WrestleTech, and Jim walks out of the office, as he often did, to check on the progress and to give some pointers. And he's like, "The hell was that?" And I was like, "It was a super kick." He was like, "Yeah, don't do that again," and just went back. My super kick. It's not, but it's not even something I would do. Like, it's not. If you see, it'd be like seeing Terry Gordy throw a super kick. Like, I just should never be doing it, even if I could. But and not that I'm comparing myself to his toughness, but that's more like I do more of that brawling technical style, right? So Howard, when you saw, I think, I could be wrong, you saw the Super 8, and there was a match, Leo's first match. I think you were like, wow, that was the match I really liked. That was the match. Now I'm a fan. That was probably my favorite match. But yet he wrestled again, and I would be willing to bet, knowing the caliber of those guys, because I didn't actually get to see every single thing, that he didn't go out and do every single move and everything he knows. So I don't know that that's why it made it your favorite match. It was probably, and I'm trying to guess, because you really resonated with the character, and that's the first time you saw him. So what he did after that just kind of raised the ante. But your memory, your favorite is that first time he walked out. Is that kind of like correct?
Yeah, and maybe we'll close on this note. I saw him 3 times.
Okay.
3, maybe 4. But each time I saw him, it was just a little different. He brought something else out. From the first time that I was like, wow, that was.
So he escalated, so the crowd didn't see everything right away, especially wrestling 3 times one night.
Even from show to show, I'm like, wow, this isn't the same stuff that he did the previous show. So
he's smart.
Now I'm looking forward to seeing his match coming up. Now, like, what else is he going to do? The next time that I see him.
Well, and also, Howard, I'll piggyback off you a little bit.
Then don't be shocked.
Right.
No.
Well, and Howard, I'll piggyback off you a little bit on this one before we totally close out. But me as a fan, I'll use myself as the fan in this scenario. You
don't count because you're a wrestler. No, I'm only kidding.
But when I was a fan, my favorite wrestler. I mean, obviously, I grew up as a Hulkamaniac at one point, but my favorite wrestler throughout my formative years, my 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, up till my teens, was very rarely the world heavyweight champion, was very rarely the main event. I was a small kid, so I gravitated towards some of the smaller guys. I really liked 1-2-3 Kid. And he put on, in that like 92 era, I'll dare you to find someone that was putting on better matches at the WWF than Sean Waltman was. Because I don't think there was.
Good. He was underrated.
Steamboat isn't the biggest dude in the locker room usually, but he was the most fun for me to watch. Ricky Morton. I like watching old school Ricky Morton matches, even though his stuff was a little bit more selling than the athletic side. But even I'll go later on, I was a big Rockers guy. I liked Sean and Marty together because that was, they were smaller, but I liked watching that speed, that athleticism, the double moves, the double drop kick, the double suplex, the elbow drop into, or the hip toss into the nip up into the elbow drop or whatever however they did it. I love seeing that stuff. So that might have been my favorite match on the card, but that didn't mean that I didn't enjoy all right, WrestleMania 6 opens with a Rockers match. That doesn't mean that I don't watch and enjoy Hulk versus Warrior.
Right. Because they were two completely different types of matches.
It's a completely different, and on the working side of things, I'll say this. If I see a match, let's say like you said, like Sparrow, who is probably going to fly, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and they really take the crowd on a ride in that way, and I know I'm, sake of argument, I'm the main event, I'm actually going to I'm hoping that I can pay enough attention that my match is going to be completely different than what they did. I'm going to try to take them on a different ride than what they just took them on. I don't want to do all the same stuff. I want to I want to throw something different out there. Maybe they were all athletic and I want to do all story at that point. Hey, we're going to tell the story that this guy's knee is completely shot out, or this guy is just going to keep cheating, and then he gets caught with it, and this happens, and that's how so-and-so gets the win. It has to be different. And I think that's the problem is, for at least a long time while I was watching indie stuff, I would get one different match, but the other 6 matches were exactly the same. And to the argument, most of the matches that we're watching on national television are kind of exactly the same. I don't see they're put, like, the moves are put in different places, but it's Tuesday night when we're recording. If I put on NXT right now, how many matches are going to look completely different? If I watch AEW tomorrow, what matches are going to look so different that it stands out? Because that's what I want. And, what matches are going to have moves that make fucking sense? Just make sense. Like Howard said, have it make sense. And like you said, it doesn't need to be a blood feud. I've watched UFC and boxing matches where the two guys on the other side of the ring did not hate each other.
Yeah, but they're competitive.
But they wanted to win.
Right.
Yeah.
Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti is one of the greatest trilogies of all time.
Yeah.
They did not hate each other.
Right.
They beat on each other like they hated each other.
I was just actually, I follow Dan DeBeast-Severin on his page, and he, he'll put up some nice articles every now and again or link some stuff out. And he talked about even there was early days of like UFC where it was much more brutal than it is today. I mean, you were allowed to nut shot. The only thing
fish hook, all that stuff.
Bite. Yeah.
It was after Tank Abbott came in. That Tank Abbott is the reason for like 80% of the rules outside of weight classes.
Exactly. Yeah. But a lot of that, didn't hate Ken Shamrock. He goes to conventions with Ken Shamrock, but yet they had a series that was extremely competitive, so you don't always have to hate somebody, to be, and you don't always have to sell that you hate somebody. Like the money last night, I had no problem with the way that they did the Uso Punk thing. It was very nicely done by both guys. Just wrong place for me. Why don't we finish with that? But again, this acceptance of the mediocrity for whatever sake of, oh, it was the main event and it was the greatest thing I ever saw. I mean, it just wasn't, for multiple reasons. Like, I hate to say it, but that's not ice cream. That's not, we talk about the flavors of ice cream. Like, Howard may like something I don't, and vice versa. This was just not a fundamentally good wrestling match by any stretch of the imagination. So
Howard really likes
conditioned
drowning
to
and,
accept.
and choking angles.
Exactly. I think that this was an important show, though, because what I'd like to, as we joke around and have a lot of fun, I would challenge our listeners and fans to really, and if you look at it and like it, I don't want to tell anybody what to like and not like, but understand what I'm looking at from a trainer, from a wrestler, from a fan's perspective, that we're now being expected to accept mediocrity for extremely exorbitant prices overall. Look at that. Look at that out from not a fisheye lens, but look at that from like a 360, up in the air view. Like, yeah, maybe it wasn't that. And then if you want to compare it to something, just go find it. Howard's talked about it. Go find a Rockers match, a Rock and Roll Express match, anything where tag psychology was a really huge deal. And there's a stark difference between what you generally see today and the way that it was, the art of it, Yeah. So anyway, boys, I guess we'll send this rabbit hole back up to the top now, right? After I've spewed, you guys have let me have and I appreciate you too, because I really had some stuff to get off my chest tonight. You surprised?
But that's what we're here for. We're here to be your therapist here, so you can work through all of your issues. Oh my God,
you couldn't have said it better. Not only are you my friend, you're like my wrestling therapist. So I'm like, I need you. I just need you to hear me.
I told you I'm a bartender. I'm either a really cheap therapist or a really expensive babysitter.
You're a therapist by trade. There's a number of trades out there that kind of start to qualify us to be like psychological professionals, and like wrestling is definitely one of them, but bartendering's got to be another one too. So you got two vocations that are, you have 2 degrees on your wall. Howard manages people, so he's got a degree on his wall for stupidity and nonsense. So,
I got several for stupidity and nonsense, and it just more than we have time to do on probably any show at any level.
Yeah, we could start doing those real long form ones, like 5 hours long, and just let Howard talk, and we can just be like, you ever see the Marvel where Iron Man's talking about like what happened, and it was Iron Man 3 when Hulk wakes up and he's like, you lost me at the elevator. He's like, so you didn't hear any of it? That'd be me and Steve.
Yeah.
We'd be like this.
What?
But guys, it's been fun. Appreciate you hanging out. Check us out, on I Still Call It a Lariat podcast, plus all the other fine podcasts that Steve produces. Yes. Great quality there. Hopefully this gets downloaded real soon. Guys, thanks for going down yet another rabbit hole, an interesting rabbit hole, which has been great. And I can't wait to see what we talk about next week, although we'll talk about 100 topics between now and then, and none of them will ever make the air.
Never making the show.
Yeah, rarely do we talk about the stuff we think we want to talk about, because we get on here and we just start talking.
You don't want to talk about when you came on and I was over there cussing at nothing. You had no idea what I was talking about. I was like, what the hell are you doing? I was probably like, what's going on over there? You probably thought I was in like a street fight, but I was just battling the TV, man.
That's all.
Was someone stealing your car?
What the?
Too soon?
Oh gosh!
So many jokes, so little.
Too soon,
that, guys. We will say good night. I appreciate everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. Good night, guys.
Fans. Thank you for indulging us, and please give us a listen, share us, talk about it, tell everybody how crazy we are. We'd appreciate it.
Have a good night.